Welcome to another audio commentary for a YouTube poop that I've made. This one is George Shrinks Aboard the Nostromo. Now this is one of my more popular YouTube poops, and I'm not entirely sure why. Perhaps it's because this opening left a very good first impression. Real funny stuff. Also, it could be that the thumbnail I used was of very high quality, real eye-catching. Now, the audio editing that went into this scene was very extensive, but very good in the results. I mean, when you think about it, it's very minimalist, the editing I did here. Just that one flash. But all the other stuff really conveys the scene. Now, this episode itself is being a sequel, the first sequel I made to a George video. As a result, it's the start of what I intended to be an entire series within the science fiction genre, where George finds himself in various adventures resembling famous science fiction, this being a send-up to Aliens, or the first one, Alien. Now this scene right here, this is where it all goes downhill for George. He just went too far. You mustn't be disrespecting your parents like this. It's very bad, as we'll soon see. There are consequences. Oral Jr. is clearly suffering from PTSD from the war. I didn't know he was in a war, but, you know, who am I to judge? Now, as much as I like that music, I will undoubtedly get copyright struck for it. That's just the way the game is played. And here's George, just casually being a vandal. Fun fact, I actually have been to a strip club this one time. Met a pretty lady there named Jules. She was the inspiration for a few other things I've done. I'll just move along from that now. Here is one of many dance numbers I've added into these YouTube poops. That guy right there, he appears in them quite often. Mr. What's his name? It's not Broccoli, it's something he calls himself. As for that rabbit, I don't know, he's somebody else. But I do put quite a bit of editing into these dance numbers and music scenes, as you can see by the special effects we got going right here. This can take a long time, in fact, but the results are quite trippy and really nice, although they are at a high risk of being copyright struck. We had to change things up at this scene right here because the plot just wasn't going in the right direction with all that singing and dancing. And here is where his brutality is on full display, with special cameo appearances by the cinema snob. Salt. That's more than just a salty remark, that's genuine cruelty, and in most situations he just straight up wouldn't survive. It's surprising the amount of stock footage you can find on the internet. That was really weird, how I had an actual selection of footage of objects being flushed down the toilet. Now here's the first instance of a recurring gag I've had throughout this series. It's the commercial breaks, highlighted by the Transformers commercial break segments. And in this time we can throw in random gags about just about anything, sometimes even real commercials, as other episodes will demonstrate. This scene right here came from Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, real classic parody of a sci-fi horror film. You gotta see it, it's real funny. We now return to this YouTube poop. Anyway, here's George going down the tube, with Slippy the annoying toad interjecting, and I had to add a few music numbers in here to make it more interesting. But inevitably that resulted in a copyright claim, so, you know, one step forward and two steps back. Nobody gets too far like that. This would be a terrible situation to die in, I can just imagine. I mean, drowning, and drowning in the dark.
Enough!
Yeah, I agree, that was enough of that music. Anyway, as George gets his bearings in this scene, he makes a pun or joke of some sort involving payphones or whatever. Now, we did use some video game music for this scene, and I regret that so much of it had to be cut for the immediately preceding scene, because, you know, I would have liked to see more cave exploring in this adventure. but as we see now, the footage from the film Alien had to be incorporated and edited properly to get past the usual copyright claimers and whatnot, yet keep the scene interesting. It's the old fossilized space jockey scene, you know, very atmospheric, very professional work the directors did. Now, some of you might be wondering how I got away with this, showing so much of the original footage. Well, you would be amazed at what you can get away with a simple pan and scan technique. Yeah, the same things they used for converting a widescreen release into a standard format for TV. Well, I just used the same techniques and a few cuts here and there, a few fades, and yeah, it all works out real good. Also, this audio track right here is actually from a video game. There's surprisingly little enforcement of copyright laws surrounding that. Needless to say, that audio is from Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. And coming up next is some audio from Mario 64. A good game and a classic to be sure, although I'm not sure what's up with all those theories about there being infinite alternate dimensions contained within the game. It sounds more likely it's just a glitch of sorts. Well, it's an exploit in the matrix of data. It's all digital and such, you know? And supposedly there's infinite copies of the universe with slight modifications, but I don't know. It seems like a really weird idea. And how would you even know for sure that there are minor differences? It's all really beyond me. Now, getting back to the video, here's where we cut in some more footage from Alien, and it's real dramatic stuff. Check it out. Even incorporated some digital text in there, and some video game music. Archived audio from Tourette Sky, a real classic on YouTube. I used to be a real big fan of that sort of thing. I would always look for a new episode. The really funny one was when a bird got in the house and he panicked and he freaked out and he just started beating it with a stick and he broke his whole house trying to get rid of a bird that flew in. I don't have much to say about what happens next. I just used some audio for a slip and slide commercial. Yeah, supposedly people get hurt playing those things. I saw it happen on King of the Hill. It was funny. Dang it, Bobby! And here we have more Mario 64 music, the infamous slip and slide one. I remember that level, it was fun, but I would always fall off into darkness. So I couldn't help but notice that the animators of this original series recycled this sequence quite a few times, at least the part where George slides around through the tubes and whatnot. I don't think plumbing works that way. First of all, it's violating the laws of physics. Second of all, the water wasn't treated. George's anecdote right here is quite right. It would be terribly inconvenient if he ended up in an entirely different house. After that traumatizing incident, a new disaster unfolds. That was my favorite part.
Shooter's clogged.
I'm surprised at the results I found when I Google searched that term, that expression, shitters clogged. That shot right there, that scene, that is what made me absolutely certain I should do a YouTube poop. I recall I recycled that joke a few times.
Crazy doo-doo-doo.
We got more footage from Alien right here. All the real industrial stuff. The audio actually came from an instructional video, educational thing about sewage. So, of course I had to do it, because, well, you know, it just wouldn't be a YouTube poop without focusing on the poop tubes. As we can see here, Brett is getting a face full of sewage water. That can't be good for you. And I'm using the same old technique to get around the copyright infringement. Aren't I clever?
Lousy luck. What started out as a perfectly okay boring morning suddenly took a turn for the
Shooter. I have to live in this hellhole!
Now, that glitch right there would imply that George is a robot. I think I kind of retconned that to not be the case anymore, but I was toying around with the idea. Either that or just George's family members are all robots in this timeline. for reasons that'll become apparent later in the series. Oddly enough, I used deleted scenes footage for this scene with the alien right here, and for some reason the copyright holders don't seem to care about that stuff. That made it all the more easy to get past them, you know? Anyway, poor old Brett, he's gonna get an encounter. And that voice you're hearing is supposed to be coming from the alien itself, and by extension the cockroaches we'll see later in the episode. I hope I had made that clear in the original edit. And by my own admission, I feel the scene goes on for far too long.
You want it?
I think what Brett's doing here might actually be trying to impersonate a dog or something to try and scare the alien away, but that clearly isn't going to work out for him. It's also worth noting that they emphasize the scorpion-like nature of the alien's tail. Deleted scenes can reveal all kinds of crazy stuff, I tell ya. They even have an alternate explanation for how the alien reproduces. If you've seen that scene, you know how horrifying it really is. I'm seeing purple. It's really quite beautiful, you know? We're switching back to the regular colors right now, just to emphasize the color of blood. And here's a Garfield reference. I really should have added the audio clip to emphasize that. Don't ask me where that audio came from.
Dear to tread. Okay, ready to rock and roll.
More copyrighted music, ahoy! Yeah, we got fun and games. We got everything you want. Well, that was really unnecessary, but I don't know. I felt like doing it anyway. Here we see George glitching out like a robot or something. Doesn't explain violation of physics as we see here. And of course, that cliche had to happen as well. Is it weird that I never bothered to watch the first Mission Impossible movie?
This is so cool. Here I am, subduing the netherland of my own house. A vast, wet, slimy,
shitty shit.
I really wanted more comments from AVGN, but I'm surprised at how lacking there are of archived audio. Compilations. Now look at that. There's a cost-saving measure if I've ever seen one. Rather than getting a POV shot of walking through a tunnel, you just slightly move the camera up and down as you zoom in.
Enough.
Speaking of cost-saving measures, I actually recycled this footage from another music video, but added effects, as you can see, and a different song. I like it. Harold demonstrates just how sick he is because now he's celebrating the fact that he's murdered his own son. Truly degenerate. But on the bright side, he does have good taste in music. KMFDM. Considering they made an entire song about anarchy, I think it would be really hypocritical of them to try and copyright strike this song.
That was pretty stylish,
Don't you think?
But there's still something missing.
Murder.
Haven't you had enough for one day? Oh, we got more footage here. More footage from Alien.
The enclosed instruction book.
What does this button do? Please, do not push the button. You have no idea what it is.
That's what happens when you go pressing buttons, but you don't know they do. Lots of cool editing tricks I did here for this scene. So I was just wondering, does my voice sound like Kermit the Frog here?
Shit! Oh, damn it! Shit! Shit!
Mama.
part of the reason I even started incorporating Alien into this YouTube poop was the fact that their computer system is named Mother. Now the copyright bots were giving me a really hard time with this scene here, so I had to edit it all over the place. It's got filters on it, it's got cuts and edits and zoomed in and all sorts of nonsense. You can't even really see what's going on. It's like it's a video game on the Game Boy. Not the Game Boy Color, but just the original Game Boy. Just look at this nonsense.
I like kitty cats, I like kitty cats. I like kitty cats, I like kitty cats. They go meow, 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 meow.
The cat in that song sounded very disinterested. It sounded like it didn't want to be there at all. And here's George, goofing off as usual when there's an emergency situation. Now, how many times have we felt like that when we leave things to the last minute and start panicking?
Huh?
The audio in this scene incorporates stock sounds from Banjo-Kazooie, such as Banjo's voice, and stock sound effects of splashing water. The whole thing comes across as really surreal, at least in my opinion. Strange how I got it all to work out right.
Oh! Ow! Uh-oh!
Rope?
As we can see here, the audio
Sorry, Link.
from Marusho is reused both for the cockroaches and aliens, implying they're supposed to represent the same thing.
Watch it, Junior! Watch it! You don't want to burst my bubble.
Well, considering I had to resort to a silly pun like that, I guess you could say this video's been dragging on for a little while now. Even I think it gets a bit slow near the end here, so I'm surprised everyone likes this video so much. This one also gave me some trouble with copyright. I didn't want them to have squeaky voices, but I just had to make it that way for copyright reasons. It's been one of those days. There it is again. And now, George is surrounded by the bugs, making the same sound as before. And now we have a cliffhanger ending. Or not.
I'm not gonna fight you.
No!
And so, George is dumped out with the sewage, like the piece of shit he is. No, he's not really that bad. He just gets himself into shitty situations. Incidentally, I don't really know where this clip came from. But I guess I like it. One of the surprising things I found when I tried searching the term shitter's full. And it gave me this, so... Well, I guess that's everything. We just end with the credits with this iconic song from the Raggedy Ann and Andy movie. It's something I've treated as George's official song, though it isn't the official version, you know, whatever. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day. Stay safe out there. Last I checked, California was turning orange or something.
We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning. M-A-G-A.